Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another one of my very amateurishly put together Leica vlogs. First of all, this is the first vlog I've done in the new year, and I'd like to take the opportunity to wish you all a belated happy new year and a happy and healthy new year. This one is probably not going to be all that popular, but I did say I would do it, and I was going to cover, and I am going to cover the various different Leica cases that my cameras have come in. Sometimes they've come in cases and sometimes they haven't. But before we do that, I'd like to welcome 2 or 3 newcomers to the channel. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank all those who've made suggestions about putting the errant 10 leaves back into that scimitar that I partially stripped down. And I'd like to thank Reese, James, Wayne, John and Dwayne for all their suggestions. I am considering those. The problem is that I need to be in the right mood to do this, and you know it's fiddly and so on, and I just haven't really got round to doing it. And it's not as if I'm short of time. I'm retired, but I am involved in a few other things as well, and so I just haven't felt the need to do any further tampering. And I do have another scimitar anyway, and I don't have a camera body that lacks a lens, but I would like to have another bash at some point. But anyway, thank you all for your suggestions. And the other bit of news is that the last camera I featured was the Leica 2 that I'd purchased from auction, and I did say that at least one of the blinds needs replacing, and but I'm going to try putting some film through it, and I did put some film through it, and yes indeed, at least one of the blinds does need replacing, because I haven't actually even bothered to scan the negatives, because just by looking at them with a naked eye you can see that there's something seriously amiss. And I'll just quickly demonstrate that with the aid of this bit of white paper. And here's part of the film, and you can see that. Just try and get the now. If you look at those black blobs, obviously on a positive would be white. And also those sort of black streaks that you can see, they would also be white. So that's what you get if you use any camera with a focal plane shutter and the blinds are damaged. I just thought it was worth a try. It was a 24 frame piece of, well, as you can see, Ilford FP4. I went out one Sunday morning with the camera few weeks back and just shot 24 frames off, and then developed them later, and that was the results. No surprise there really, but the camera has gone off. It's gone to Camera Works UK up in Bury in Lancashire for Alan Starkey to have a look at some point. I'm not expecting it back anytime soon because Alan's always busy, but I'm sure he will sort it. Now, let's get round to these cases then. I'm not sure if this is going to be of any interest to anybody, but I'm not expecting it to, what shall I say, have that many hits. But nevertheless, I don't think anybody's ever done this before, probably for good reason actually. Probably because they've thought, well, nobody's going to be vaguely interested in Leica cases, but it's just something I thought I would do. And I think it was one of the subscribers, I think Derek maybe, said that he'd be quite interested. Anyway, let's do it anyway. So I can now take this label off there, because clearly this is, and you've seen this one before, but nevertheless for completeness I'm going to include it again. This is what the Leica 1A came in, that I featured not long back. You've seen it before. I've mentioned the fact that the sides all need, it needs the attention of ideally somebody who's a saddler or something like that, who does saddle repair work. I have thought of contacting some of these companies that do car repair work, but I've just got a feeling that they wouldn't be vaguely interested. I don't know. What I have been doing though with all these cases, I've actually been feeding them with a leather preservative, and this one I think has had 2 doses, and it's still pretty dry. I mean, it's an old case. It's 90 years old, and it's probably never been treated properly. The leather on the side though, it does seem to be coming up quite shiny, quite nice. But nevertheless, I like the fact it's got lights at the top and a Leica at the bottom. So we've seen that one before, so I'll put that one away. Incidentally, if you can hear strange noises in the background, in the next room the dishwasher's going away, and it has been making sort of the dishwashery noises. You know, it's actually stopped at the moment, but if you did hear it earlier on, apologies for that. So anyway, moving on quite quickly. This case came with the second Leica I ever bought. You saw that one that I bought. Well, you actually couldn't see the camera simply because I haven't got the camera now. I sold it in the 80s, and about 6 or 7 years ago, maybe, I can't remember exactly, I suddenly had the urge to buy another 3C. So actually, technically, this case is what came with the second 3C that I purchased, and whether or not this is the original case with the camera, I have no idea. It's like when if you buy a Leica, you're never really certain unless you're specifically told that the lens on it is the lens that was bought with the camera, and it goes for the case as well. I did notice that the 3C didn't fit all that well. It was quite tight. Now that may be that the case itself has maybe it's shrunk, or maybe this is a case for one of the pre-war Leicas, because they weren't quite so wide, the 3C and the 3F and the 3G, they got slightly wider bodies, and you know, a few millimeters can make all the difference. But the case itself actually is in quite good condition, and as I said, this has been fed with leather cleaner a few times, and it's got quite a nice sort of a appearance now. I don't use these cases, and the reason for that, when I take a camera out, I take it out in a you know, a modern camera bag, and the reason for that, unfortunately, you can't take the front off, and it's permanently there. And on a couple of occasions, what can happen is this bit comes up like that, and this is so placed so that it can hit the front element of the lens. Okay, it's soft leather and it probably wouldn't do any harm, but that's not the point really, is it? So if we could remove the front section away from the main body of the case, I'd probably use them, because they look quite nice in that bit. But it's this bit that sort of worries me a little bit. But anyway, as you can see though, the strap, I've stuck that together. The strap actually split, so there's no way I'm going to entrust this case to one of my Leicas, for obvious reasons. But you can see there it's clearly stamped Leica, Germany, and it's actually, as cases go, it's in quite nice condition. So that is the first case I acquired a few years back, and I can't very well put the clip back now. It needs a camera body inside that to positively push it back so it would click. But I think you get the general impression of what's happening there. So right, what's next then? Well, these aren't in any particular order. In fact, they sort of were, but they've gone out of order because I've got a pile of these cases all together. Now this is the one that came with the Leica 2. I'll take the label off now. That's just an aide de memoire, so I get the right case with the right camera. This is a recent acquisition as well. This came with the Leica 2 I bought at auction, and this part here had, at least I think it's this one, is it? It must be this one, yes. Yeah, this bit here, which is sewn onto the main case, had come away. In fact, I think the stitchings actually sort of disappeared now. But what I did, I decided to buy some what is called leather glue. And it was only this little bit that had sort of come away from the main case. The case actually, this has been treated as well, and it's in quite good condition. You can see in there, got what is almost certainly the original red case there. Now, I've no idea whether this is the original case that these cameras came with. I do know it's got this different front to it, that there's not the depth. If you look at this one, that one, you can probably see what I mean. And I've used a little bit of leather glue on this one, which I'll come back to in a little while. But this case actually is quite nice, and the glue seems to have done the trick. And I think the strap on this one, which well, actually looks I'm saying it's new. It's dry in places, but that's probably original on that one because it's this much darker colour. But this one, I suspect, isn't original, although it is actually quite dry in places. But that strap, I think, could be used quite easily. So that's the case for, well, is it for a Leica 2? It's the case that came with my Leica 2 anyway. So what's that now? Let's see what's next. There's only another couple, so just bear with me, don't fall asleep or turn off. A quick slurp of coffee. And now this one. This one, I believe, this one came with the Leica M3 that I bought. And I'm assuming that was the case that came with the camera. It's seen its fair share of wear and tear. And this has got this sort of like greeny grey finish inside. And it's quite a different design, and as you can see, there's a little window here so that you can read the film reminder dial on the back of the camera. At least you can see the part where you would have set the reminder. So this is obviously a much later case. Once again, it's embossed with the E-Lights Veslar stamp just there. It looks, as I've said, it looks as though it's had a bit of wear and tear, but nevertheless it's a nice leather case all the same. It's quite interesting really, because when these cameras were made new, I mean the M3 that was in here, and I think it's probably the original case, dated from 1955. But these earlier cameras, Now they always came with a. I don't know whether the Ever-Ready case was an option or what. I really don't know. But the point is, they were leather, and you know, at the time a lot of these cameras were made, leather was simply the normal material that cases like this were made from. Nowadays, of course, it would be purchased very much as a luxury item. So I just removed the label, and again at the front there. Like all the others, it's got the Leica script on the front, so you can't mistake it for anything else. And now the next one. Now this one, this is what I use. I think this is the 3G case, I'm not sure, but this case came with it actually came with a, I hope I've got the right case with this one, and I'm not mixing it up with the M3, but I don't think I am. This one's like a purple colour inside. Now this case came with a Leica 3A in it. Bought it from auction, and it was a bit of a midge-modge because the camera was a 1936 3A. It came with this case, and it also came with a much later Elmar f2.8 lens attached to it. So the Elmar, as I said before, I like my camera bodies to have a sort of a lens that's really appropriate to the body. Don't ask me why, it's just the way my mind works. This 3A came in this case. If it didn't come in this one, it came in that one, but I pretty certain it came in this one, which clearly wasn't the right case for a pre-war camera. And again, as you can see, it's got a window in there for a reminder, but the case is actually different to the other one, because this one's got this curved piece at the top, and on the other one it's perfectly straight. Now I'm not going to make the assumption that all M3s came in this case, and I'm not going to make the assumption that all 3Gs came in this one, because it could well be that certainly this was either for a 3G with the window there, or an M3, because they're the cameras, or you know, I'm assuming this one is the original one, because I'm pretty certain this came with the M3. And when I bought the M3, I think the chap said he doesn't use it, and I've just always assumed that was the case that came with that camera when it was new, although I don't have any proof. But what I'm trying to say is that this case is either an M3 or a 3G, and the same could go for this one. Now, what I did wonder is that both cameras seem to fit in the same case. So was this a case, if you pardon the pun, that one of them's earlier, one of them's later, and the design just evolved differently? So is it possible to buy an M3 with this curvy bit here, and vice versa? I don't know, but there is a difference between these two cases, subtle but nevertheless different. So well, that's basically it as far as the Leica cases are concerned, and so I hope you sort of grasp what I was on about, what I was rambling about. These two cases are either 3Gs or M3s or M2s or whatever. But was there a design for the one type and a different design for the other, or have I actually got examples of cases for the same camera, which over the years developed. So is this perhaps an earlier version and that's a later version, or vice versa? I don't know. If there's any Leica specialists out there who know this, then please tell me. But this case actually is it's actually very nice condition. As I say, I don't use them because, again, you can't remove the front. I mean, that's a rivet as far as I'm concerned. I don't think there's any way that that could easily be removed from the. I'm not going to force it, but I don't see there's any way that could easily be removed from the unless it can. And if you happen to know if it can, then let me know. But I've never wanted to make any attempt at doing that, and it's the same with this one. I'm not going to put any more pressure on that because I don't think it is meant to come off. A good idea in one respect, because there's no way you can drop it, but I always worry a bit about this bit flipping back and catching the lens. But anyway, so there we are. This is probably a completely unique vlog about Leica cases, but there is one more case I would like to show you. And it's this one. Now, some of you will most certainly seen the Reid camera that I purchased. For those who don't, the Reid was a camera made after the war, and it's a copy of the Leica 3B. If you want to go back through my previous vlogs, there's an example of mine compared with the 3B. But this is a Reid and Siegrist case, or at least a case that was made for them. And this one is actually coming away a bit there. That needs the attention of a little bit of glue, which I can give it, because I'm coming on to that in a minute. But there's the Reid case. In remarkably good condition. It's very similar to the. Let's put that back and get this one out. It's very similar, but they're not quite the same, to the one in this one. The only difference I can see is that the Reid has this curving here, and the Leica doesn't. And they're probably roughly from the same era. I mean, I'd imagine that these were made for Reid, although I've got no evidence to suggest that's the case or otherwise. But anyway, that's a Reid one. And this one actually does come in with a very impressive, much thicker shoulder strap than that of the Leica. So, I mean, that case is perfectly usable. So that's it really as far as the actual cases are concerned. I just sort of put them in that untidy pile there. And what I was going to say was that if you've got a leather camera case, then they, from time to time, they do require a little bit of maintenance. Excuse me while I just slurp this coffee because it's going cold. What I was going to say was my wife, she happened to have some saddle soap and leather feed, neat's foot oil, because we've got a leather three-piece suite, and she decided she would clean it with the saddle soap, and then she would feed it with neat's foot oil. But then our daughter decided to do the same thing, and so our daughter had both the saddle soap and the neat's foot oil, and as far as I know, it's never returned. It's probably all been used actually. And the saddle soap, as its name suggests, that's put on there to clean, well, actually leather saddles, I suppose, because they are, they would get, by their very nature, they would get dirty. Anyway, we sort of lost our saddle soap and needs foot oil. If you got like a leather jacket and you want to keep it nice and subtle, that's the sort of thing you can use. But there's other things as well, and with needs foot oil you have to be very careful with it. You sort of only need a little bit and it goes a long way. But what we did buy to replace it is this stuff. Now this is, as you can see, this is by a company called Car and Day. Car and Day and Martin, and it's called Car's Leather Oil. Now I think this is slightly different to needs foot oil, but it's the same sort of thing. It's like probably an extract of some sort, and it's used for, as it says, the intensive conditioning for saddlery and harness leather, protects and waterproofs. So I think it's very similar to needs foot oil, but you can actually put this, you can be quite liberal with the application of this stuff. Now, I want to make it very clear I have no connection with this company. I'm not giving them a free plug, but it's an alternative. And I got the impression this is slightly different to needs foot oil. Does the same job, but anyway, that's what I've been feeding these cases on. I would have fed them on the other stuff, but as I say, we haven't got it. And that little repair I did on the one camera, I used to. I bought this stuff, and it's logically called leather glue. It's you can see it's not focusing very well, is it? But this came from Amazon, and it's not a sort of natural glue. If you take and I'm not suggesting you do this, but if you actually take the top off and you catch the fumes, it's certainly solvent based. It's got that sort of very chemically smell to it, but it's really a contact adhesive. But it did work. It worked very well on the bit of a repair that I did. So that seems to have worked all right. It says for car interiors, upholstery and shoes, and it seems to have done quite a good job. So that's what I used to repair the one case that had lifted a little bit. I'm going to use some of that on that Reid case, I think, when I get around to it. And so anyway, I can sort of recommend both of those products. And what I do, I get a soft cloth and just apply it very carefully to the leather and let it soak in. And you could do this one or two times. I mean, I think this early case here, I don't think that's ever going to come back looking anything other than like that. And but the sides, this seems to be actually like a slightly different sort of a leather. I'm no expert on leather at all, and in fact, I have actually thought of using that adhesive on this. It's very tempting, because to have it repaired by even if I could find somebody, a saddle maker or whatever, it's going to cost money. So I don't know what to do with it really, or just leave it like that, because I'm not going to use it anyway. So anyway, there's my little collection of Leica cases. So I'd like, again, I hope that you take care, and I hope you all remain healthy, and again, all the very best for a new year. I think I've said everything I was going to say. I'll probably stop this recording and think about something else, but let me just check. No, I think I've covered everything. So again, thanks very much, and take care, and I'll speak soon. So for now, bye bye, and see you soon.